Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over the COBB Accessport Mount. This is the Ford Accessport V3 A-pillar mount for the 2013 to 2018 Focus STs and the 2016 to 2018 Focus RSs. So I've already mounted this swivel piece to the back plate right here. They give you these 4 little screws to do that. So I've already done that. It's pretty easy. And then you can just simply slide in your access port just like this. And then this whole entire thing then mounts up on the driver's side, mounts up on the car frame. So pretty easy stuff. This also comes with these adhesive strips that I haven't peeled back yet to make it a more permanent location when you mount it. So I've been using it for a few weeks now. It's pretty cool, but I haven't made it permanent because I want to figure out what I'm going to do with the wires that you need to plug the access port in. So I'm going to figure out how to make those wires a little more discreet before I make this mounting location permanent. Also in today's video, I'm going to be going over some data logs on the access port on how to do it. It's pretty simple, and what gauges I monitor. So I monitor up to 6 gauges of various temperatures and stuff like that. Pretty cool stuff. And then we'll plug it into the computer, show you guys how to do that, pull up the graphs on there. Pretty cool stuff. But yeah. So let's go put this mount in the car. All right, so the way to do this is it's kind of an awkward angle, but you pull this back a little bit and you wedge the bottom part in there. And then the top part just clicks in, and then that's literally it. So it is mounted in there. And since I don't have the adhesive peeled back, you can kind of slide this up and down and move it where you want before you make it permanent. And that's it. And that's how you do it. And then from here, we just put the access port in, and you can swivel this around however you like, which is pretty cool. All right, so I turned the car on, plugged the access port in. So this is kind of how it looks in the car with it all mounted up up there, which is pretty nice. I really like it. You can also swivel this to however you need, right? Angled, however you want. So that I really like that feature. It's pretty nice. Yeah, so this is what it looks like. Pretty cool. So the gauges that I monitor as of right now, I sometimes change them. So we got boost pressure top left. We have requested torque on the right. Then we have comp inlet temperature, comp outlet temperature, intake air temp, and charge air temp. Also these numbers, here we'll go with the intake air temperature. Sorry if the numbers are a bit blurry. So those smaller numbers on the bottom, it says 65.9/70.7. So that's going to be the minimum and maximum values so far since you've plugged in the access port, right? And the longer that I idle right here, the intake temperature, obviously the engine bay is going to warm up the temperature that's coming into the intake. And a fun fact to note is that the intake air temperature, especially with that Velossa Snorkel on there, it'll usually match whatever the ambient temperature is outside, which is 61 degrees right now. And the longer I sit here, the more that's going to heat up because we're not moving. But once we start moving, it usually comes down to exactly the ambient air temperature, that's really good. And then we also have charge air temp, which is really important. So this is the temperature that is going into the engine after it passes through the intercooler. So this is showing you how your intercooler is doing and the temperature that's going back into the engine. So obviously colder air into the engine is better than hot air. So I obviously have an aftermarket intercooler. I have the Mishimoto intercooler, and this charge air temperature, it keeps it pretty low even after some really hard pulls. Way better than the stock intercooler. But yeah, so this is what it looks like. And so we're gonna go for a drive. I'm gonna mount the GoPro probably on this side window so you can just see the gauges and all that stuff. And we'll do some pulls, I'll do some data logging, and then after the drive, we'll go ahead and plug the access port into the computer, and I will show you how to pull up the graphs and all that stuff. All right, so GoPro's all mounted. It's mounted upside down, so I apologize if the angle looks super weird, but that's the best I can do. All right, so let's go. So if you can see, I was obviously idling for a little bit there because the intake air temperature is 92, 93 degrees, and it's 61 outside. So once I start driving, that intake temperature is going to cool down quite a bit. So right there, I got into a little bit of boost. And I don't know if you can really pick that up on the screen, kind of far away. So the lowest, the boost, negative 11.33, and the high on the boost so far is 4.57. So those numbers change all the time depending on if you break the high or the lows on those numbers. So as you can see, the intake air temp now shows like 66. So we're cooling down even more. I'll angle this up a little bit more so the camera can see it better. Yeah, and this mount is definitely a must if you want to be running the Accessport all the time in the Focus. But yeah, so the whole point of showing you guys it all mounted up in here is to go get some data logs. So I'm gonna skip ahead to that. I'll probably do like a third gear open throttle, fourth gear open throttle, and maybe like just some spirited driving going just from first to sixth gear. So we'll have 3 different graphs to look at on the computer. So I will check back in with you guys once I get out on the open road there, and so I can do those pulls. All right, so I'm going to start data logging now, and the way you do that, you just push the center button on your Accessport. So this first one, I am going to do a third gear open throttle. So I'm going to get up to third gear. All right. So I'm in third gear, and here we go. So our next one's going to be fourth gear open throttle. So I just started the data log, and here we go. That was a pretty good pull. This street is a slight incline, so we'll see what the graph shows there for all the metrics and whatnot. So it'd be interesting to see. All right, so I'm going to start it from here, doing a U-turn. So that was all the way to sixth gear. So I'm curious what that one looks like on the graph. Oh, see, on that one, our PSI reached over 22. That's pretty cool. But yeah, so that's it. All right, so I'm gonna go back home and upload this stuff. I'm gonna show you guys how to do all that stuff, how to plug this in and access the data and the spreadsheet, so we can take a look at the data on that. So that should be fun. All right, so I'll see you guys there. Okay, so we are at the computer now. So the first thing you're going to want to do is open the Accessport Manager. If you do not have the Accessport Manager, go ahead and go to COBB's website, and you can download it for free. Really easy, straightforward. Also, I've plugged in the COBB Accessport into the computer via the USB cable they provide with the Accessport. So it should look something like this. And so for this example of pulling the data and making a graph and whatnot, I'm going to be using the fourth gear pull wide open throttle. So earlier in the video, I kept saying open throttle. I meant wide open throttle, so that's my bad. But yeah, so we're going to be using that data log, and I believe it's data log number 6. So go ahead and click whatever data log you want to use, and then come over to this button, and then click it. And then it's going to ask you to find a file location to save it to. So I'm going to go ahead and go here, so I have everything organized. COBB data logs, select folder. So then it should have imported it there. So we can minimize this, pull up a folder, and documents, focus ST, COBB data logs. So it's right there, data log number 6. So a good recommendation is to rename it to the date. So this is May 1st, 2021, and I'm going to name it 4th WOT for wide open throttle, just so we know what this data log is supposed to be. Once we've done this, then go ahead and double click it. It's going to open up Microsoft Excel. If you do not have Microsoft Excel, you can go ahead and use Google Sheets. It's almost the same thing. That's Microsoft's cloud-based data software. But anyway, so I have Microsoft Excel. Doesn't really matter. So this is what the data looks like. So it logs all this type of stuff. I have not gone into the Accessport and changed what it logs, so you can do that. So for this example, I'm going to be focusing on boost pressure and charge air temp for the graph, along with the time. All this other stuff I'm not going to pay attention to. All right, so the first thing we want to do is trim the data. So I want to just locate where the pull happened at. So if I look at the boost pressure, we can kind of scroll and see when the pull starts. So I can see we're all negative, right? There's no boost, and then right here is when the boost starts. I'm going to go ahead and click there, scroll back up, and then I'm going to shift and then click here so it highlights all that stuff. I'm going to right click and then delete, because that's where the pull starts. And then I'm going to scroll until the boost goes back to negative, because that's when the pull would be over. That's going to happen right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click this, and then I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, shift click, and then right click, delete. So all this data is only with the 4th gear wide open throttle. So that's what we want. All right, so once we do that, we're going to come up to the insert button up here, and I'm going to go ahead and do a scatter plot. I like scatter plots. I'm sure there's a different way that you can probably represent this data, but we're going to use a scatter plot. We have our blank one, right click it, go to select data, and then go ahead and click here, and then hold control, and then click the ones you want to work on. So I want all 3 of these. Click OK, and then boom, we have it right here. I'm going to go ahead and edit the horizontal axis here. So right click, format, axis. Since the minimum happens at 4.748, I'm going to go ahead and change it to that number. And then the maximum, I believe it's like 21, maybe. Let me see. I should probably just scroll to look. Where's it at? 20.652. So I'll just put 21. Enter. Cool. Get rid of that. Let's make this a little bigger. All right, so that's what we got. So the blue line obviously is boost pressure. So you can make this look way nicer, you know, change the title and whatnot. So this is our PSI, builds up all the way up to 20 very quickly, kind of goes above 20, and then it slowly tapers off till we're done. And then up here is the charge air temp. So just remember, charge air temp is the temperature of the air going into the engine after the intercooler has done its work and pulled the heat out. So after it's cooled it down, and that's the temperature of the air going back into the engine. So obviously during a 4th gear pull like this, you would expect the temperature to increase. The point of an aftermarket intercooler is to try to minimize the amount that it does increase during these pulls. So this is the 4th gear wide open throttle. This was right after the 3rd gear wide open throttle. So I would say this did a pretty good job. It looks like it increased about 13 degrees. I have read online on Reddit and some focus forums that the stock intercooler, once you do a couple pulls, the charge air temperature will be, you know, 150 plus. I've seen 175. It's not very good at all. So aftermarket intercooler is definitely a must in this car for sure. But yeah, so this is how you do it. So this is how we get our graphs. So you can do this with all the different types of data you can log with this stuff, which is, it's pretty cool, fun to look at. So yeah, so that's how you do it. All right, guys, so that is going to do it for this video. So hopefully that was useful on how to get your data logs onto your computer and create a graph and stuff like that and pull in the data. So pretty useful stuff, pretty cool, fun to mess around with, useful for adjusting tunes and stuff like that. Again, the COBB Accessport Mount, it's very handy. It's pretty neat to have a nice little space for the access port out of the way, and I really like the swivel feature of the mount. So definitely a must if you like onboard data and checking out stuff while you drive the car. But anyways, guys, I appreciate everyone watching this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.